Start, let me know, okay?
Right. I think it is recording. So yes, as we see girls joining in, just wanted to welcome Satish sir, who is a technopreneur at heart and somebody I really admire to make a dent with sustainable development in Web3, which is one of its kind. And, he's been in this space for so long, one of the OGs since 2016, and has been doing some very intriguing work with smallholder farmers, and how traceability solutions, basically affect the profitability of these farmers. He's been exploring those areas with blockchain, which is way ahead of its time, back in 2016 when the technology was still nascent. So girls, please do take this opportunity to understand that, hey, how can we explore the concepts in blockchain for benefiting the customers, solving the pain points, right? DeFi and all is a great use case, but if you're able to streamline anomalies through blockchain, build a custody of truth with digital ledgers, that is the way to go ahead. So without further ado, Satish sir, would love to have an intro, and just your fascinating journey would be inspiring our girls as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely no problem. So any more expected now? I see.
Sir, I think we can't hear you for some. Yeah.
Can you hear
now,
us? Yeah. Okay, so welcome. I think it's been a good journey. I've been following your journey, but good that I got a chance to speak to you. So in the next 30 minutes, right, what I'm proposing is that, so this is one session that I run with MBA students, right? And I thought this could be useful for all the girls. And this session happens every 3 months for MBA students, and where we talk about micro credits for smallholder farmers, right? So today, if you look at the way the farmers today get all the loans, is that they get a eligibility, I think per acre 50,000 rupees in India, and typically you give the passbook and you get the money, right? But on the ground reality, what happens is that most of the money does not reach the villages. It stops at the village and the town level only. Because of your public sector lending norms by RBI, 40% of the loans given by this national banks like SBI or your other by HDFC, they have to prove that it is given to the agricultural sector or anything in the public service lending. So what happens in the banks today is that at the town level, somebody can give a collateral of gold and they get a 3 to 4% or sometimes 5% per annum, which is actually good if it actually reaches the farmer. But the reality is that it doesn't really happen in India, right? Because at the village level, they don't have any collateral to give. And most of the farms have become so small that 1 acre, 2 acre, at the most 3 acres, right? And 70 to 80% of them are leased. The owner is somebody is there, but he or she is sitting in US or some part of outside India. Now they don't want to do the agriculture. They will give it to smallholder farmers, which means they can never prove that the ownership of the land. Means they can't use the passbook as a collateral to get it, which means then they end up getting loans at say 36% or 48% per annum, which is exorbitant, right? So if somebody takes 1 lakh rupees as loan, he'll end up paying 36,000 rupees as interest only per annum, right? Which is not good. In the sense that if the revenues are good, it's fine. But if the revenues, they only get 1.5 lakhs as revenue, which means they'll pay the principal plus interest. That's 6,000 rupees. So they end up with 14,000 rupees, which also means that for the next crop, they get in the same cycle. The debt cycle never ended for generations together, right? So that's exactly where I've documented the sequence, what happens in India, China, and Southeast Asia. And we put up how we could use this technology. I hope this next 30 minutes would be useful for all of you guys, right? So let me just share my screen in a while and then we'll get it. Yeah. Okay, so give me a second, I'm sharing. Okay, so there are a couple of slides, but that will basically give you the thought about why fintech plays a major role in supply chain, and why somebody has actually looked at sensor data, satellite data, or your AI data sets. And of course, the trust layer is created using blockchain. So that's the important part of it. That's where the entire focus is on this particular couple of slides. Then if the time permits, then there are a couple of exercises what I do. This session normally goes for 3 to 4 hours when I do it live in one of the top 10 universities in Singapore, in Asia, obviously. Uh, but then let's see, we have only 40 minutes here. So it's all right. Now, two things which we are trying to tackle here, right? One is obviously the credit is not available today. As I told the background, right? They end up taking from loan shops or middlemen that operate at the village level. And these credit reports are not available. If somebody called Nagaya, somebody sitting in small village, he has leased the land because that's the only way he can sustain his family. And probably his forefather has taken some loan, which is still paying interest. And this we have seen really in Padir area and Araku area, where a lot of coffee and turmeric plantations happen, tribal farmers. Okay. Luckily, by constitution, you cannot buy their land, so that's why they still have landowners, but they don't have money to working capital to do the irrigation. I mean the cultivation. That's a real problem, but we have seen felt it, but it happens across the world in the developing countries. So typically, the couple of points you need to understand is you're basically taking from loan sharks at higher interest. Typically 24%, 36% is average, can go up to 48% in very, very, tribal areas because they don't understand the mathematics of behind this and always on the same debt cycle. Right? Now, from a financial institution point of view, why would they want to give? They know Nagaya, but they don't have the profile of Nagaya, right? Even if NBFC wants to give them a 12% interest or even say 18% interest, which is cheaper than what they get from loan sharks, they don't know how to give, right? That's the problem. And the second thing now, what we are saying, right now, let's take a simple, vegetable that we understand, a lady's finger. Today, a farmer that grows lady's finger and goes to Madiki market or any APMC in any part of the world, they only get 6 rupees per kilo at the most, right? And again, look at the dynamics, how this was done in last 200 to 50 years is that the harvest happens at 4 p.m. and same the perishable lady's finger is at the farm gate or until 2 o'clock in the morning because the APMC opens next day morning at 3 o'clock, which is the mandi we call, right? So the farmer can reach the mandi, which is 30 kilometers away from the village, taking an auto or something and pays 500 rupees for the auto, and then goes there by 3 o'clock, he'll get 6 rupees. So by the time the sun rises, the price becomes in inversely proportional. And these are real facts I'm saying that I want you to really now visualize from a farmer's point of view. So 4 p.m. it becomes 5 rupees, 6 o'clock it's already at 3 rupees, 8 o'clock it's zero. The asset value is zero. So the farmers dump there and come back because they don't want to again pay 500 rupees for the auto, right? So they always are fully awake whole night to go and do it. Now, but then look at it, how much we are paying. Today, you walk in a supermarket, say Vijayata in Hyderabad or anywhere, right? Average is 40 rupees. What you pay. So who's making money here? The middleman, right? All they are doing is that they're deploying capital for 6 hours. When I say deploying capital, we're talking about from 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock average, they buy this lady's finger. They're holding it until 9 o'clock, say 6 hours. Advantage for the farmer, he gets spot cash. That's the reason they go for mandi. So I'm not saying that it's flawed, but they get a spot cash. That's advantage for farmer. No need to worry about it. So if whatever he gets is okay, he took 1,000 kilos, he got 6 rupees, so he got 6,000 rupees. He pays 500 rupees for the auto. He thinks, okay, I'm made my money, right? But then the harvest is not going to be eternal, isn't it? Once you have 1 acre of land, your harvest is only for 3 or 4 times. So you're going to make 24,000 or 30,000 rupees or on 5 cycles. Would it really pays principal plus interest? No, right? So today the system is that you take loan on 1st of May, the interest starts calculating from 1st of May, and then goes up to say 90 days of. So there's a lot of things about mathematics behind this. But the point why I'm trying to make here is that only 15% is what they realize. That's what I call it the second biggest problem. The reason is middlemen control the market. Today, I think even with technology, even if you charge 3%, now change in all the farmers, I think that's the biggest achievement. Reason being, India has 120 million farmers. Out of them, 100 million farmers are already falling under the small and marginal farmer category. And if we make change in 3 million farmers, I believe this is going to be the biggest use case in the world. That's the whole point, right? And this is the same thing I submitted to Y Combinator, which we awarded as top 10%. I said, somebody doing A to Z, from getting the credit, giving the spatial imagery, and then getting the loans and then market linkage. the entire supply chain, a digital twin was created because blockchain could help in that, right? So the solution is pretty clear. If you are trying to get a micro loan of 40,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, now I think it's to look at a event-based credit line access. No, this is nothing new which I invented or somebody invented, right? So today, if you look at say US, Singapore, anybody, there is a something called as credit line. You give a check, you write a check. Okay, there's always credit line which is 2x your salary. If somebody is getting $5,000, you get a $10,000 credit line. All they are saying is that you take whatever you need, you pay daily interest at 36% per annum, right? It's like a credit card interest, which works out. If it's for 1 or 2 weeks, it works out okay because you need fast money, I don't know, for some emergency, but you pay back in 2 weeks, you don't feel the pinch. But if you're paying back for 90 days, 180 days, you're actually paying lots and lots of money because it's compounded interest. Right? So here, the other problem from the farmer side, what happens on the reality here is that when a farmer gets 50,000 rupees as one shot, 1 day loan, okay, unfortunately, the society, whatever things culture happens, most of them are actually spending on alcohol. This is the reality happens on the ground, right? Again, on village side, right? Or the farmer is paying back the previous debt, which means he's not able to deploy this capital for buying good seeds, fertilizers, anything, right? That's not happening to you. And don't take me wrong, I'm talking something about agriculture in blockchain one. There's a way, why is reasons being that we're using blockchain on the data sets to prove that he is credible enough to get a micro loan at like a credit line access. And I'll try to quantify how we do that, right? So based on traceability events, we are releasing him X percentage. That is actually needed by the farmer. So if farmer says, I need 50,000 rupees of working capital, a farmer shall not deploy that on the same day. He will never deploy that because you need to prepare the soil, you need 20%, you need to buy fertilizer, seeds, or whatever. That's all you need, right? Somebody has put a chat question. What's this? Okay, somebody's asking. Okay, fine, good. Okay, so our point here is that if we can start putting a safety net in the form of technology around farmers, and then give all these data sets that he's credible enough, that he or she is eligible for a loan at 6 to 10% interest is objective, and I'll tell you how it's done. Now, if you look at the direct sale market strategy, right? Now, today, you look at demand and supply, most of us we have thought about, right? If 100 farmers take 10 tons of, same lady's finger at 3 o'clock, obviously the price is going to go down. Right? Because everybody has got so much of supply, the demand goes down and the price is going to go down, right? So with blockchain, what we are creating is a pull strategy. We're not actually taking this to APMC top. It doesn't go to Mandi at all. It's actually, the data is so rich. From the day you put in this, prepare the soil, and then you put in all the seeds, right? You're telling all the story to a B2B buyer or a B2C buyer. They can actually place an order 3 days before the harvest. That's why we call pull strategy. We are pulling the buyers. We are not selling to the buyers. We're not pushing so much of supply into the market that demand goes down and the price goes down. We're controlling the supply and we're telling that this is a rich data. I'm cutting down the middleman. So you are going to, even for the B2B guy like Udan that approached us and said, I want to buy from your farmers list. Why would Udan come in, right? Udan is like, if you've heard of Udan, Udan basically takes from the mandi and gives his vegetables on credit to supermarkets or small kirana stores. And then they get back the money after 15-20 days. So there's a credit, right? And they charge interest for that. So they, per day, they buy 500 metric tons of vegetables only in AP and Telangana today. And they said, can you get 10 metric tons from your network, right? Reason why they're interested to come to us, because when they go to Mandi, they are still paying 12 rupees, 15 rupees per kilo of bendi, ladies finger. Whereas this was actually sold by a farmer at 6 rupees. For 6 hours of holding that, ladies finger is making 50%, 100% profit. Whereas we are saying, but you don't need to go to Mandi. Our aggregators will give it to you at say 7 rupees or 8 rupees, or even 10 rupees, which is far cheaper than Mandi and fresh also. So that's for one more session, but today let's talk about micro lending, how it works out. Any questions, please chat or raise your hands. I'm happy to answer that. Okay, now look at why we say single source of truth. That's very, very the key for success of this model is that you have to establish a single source of truth And I believe you have been taught this in the previous sessions that why blockchain exists in the first place, right? So you look at the illustration here. You've got multiple nodes which are done for the farmers, logistics, warehouse, processors, agri-industry buyers, or cooperatives. And this data is again being fed to banks and NBFCs and also insurance companies. Okay, that's a whole network, right? So anything that happens on a given network, we can start committing the data, giving multiple transactional details that can be verified by anybody at any point of time, right? We call it a zero knowledge proof. The reason is we don't share the farmer details. We share the events there. We are sharing the event saying that this farmer Nagaya has today sown the seeds. He has put in fertilizers. This is a image proof. Okay, it's put in there, right? Now, when we get all this collect, I can either collate the data for one farmer, or I can collect the data for one village, or I can create for a cluster. Could be 5 villages or 6 villages. Okay. If somebody says Moinawar, I'm sure you get Armabubo, right? All these small districts and mandals around Hyderabad. Now, if you can collate the data and say, okay, now I can aggregate, now say 10 tons of lady's finger at 4 p.m. on same day. Immediately after harvest, you can actually sell direct, right? Because we are able to sell direct. So you don't have to keep perishable goods on the farm gate from the time of harvest, which is 4 p.m. to next day 2 o'clock, which means already exposed at 10 hours. Today, the biggest problem in India is that the food wastage is about 30% because we don't have enough infrastructure or to keep the food safely. So most of it gets, 30% gets wasted. With technology, we are trying to reduce to 5%. You cut it, grade A, grade B, grade A goes to, all these B2B buyers, right? But here in this illustration on the screen is that where we are saying multiple stakeholders in a given supply chain are looking at the single source of data, which is zero knowledge proof, and you could actually do that. This was devised even before the zero knowledge was actually coined. 2019, right? 2020, we are talking about, ZK, but this was actually defined 2019. I'm just saying, right? But the point here is that the technology, you need to understand in depth of technology, then you will be able to visualize much broader use cases, right? So if you look at how this one slide has taken care of talking from what happens from when you record pre-farm gate activities from the farmer side. We're also now telling that okay, they can do digital transactions. Can they buy 100 rupees recharge, off their phone, right? And then from their application, then I can prove that okay, now Nagaya has credibility. He's financially credible to actually recharge his phone. And this is one of the biggest use case in Kenya. They call M-Pesa, wherein they look at their credit history of a farmer or anybody for that case, using the how many minutes he's speaking, how much charge he's able to do that, right? Simple things actually magnify your credit history. Right? I'm saying we can say by doing all this one, they can increase the credible score, which is like CIBIL, but it's only focused on smallholder farmers here in this case. Same thing, you could do it for SMEs or MSMEs in India or any part of the world. Technology is the same. We are taking alternate data sets. Today, CIBIL is focusing on your credit card bills, your home loan bills, right? They are encouraging you to take credit and pay back the credit, so you're credible enough. Maybe good. It works for the urban population, but doesn't work for tier 2, tier 3, or the towns and the family, and the villages today. That's the whole idea. Any questions? I will pass here.
Yeah. Satish sir, this was a good overview. Our girls here are a little more like technical, they still don't know where the domain fits in for which solution. So we would love to know how we are leveraging like decentralized IDs, especially in such an informal sector where we don't know if they even have an Aadhaar card and stuff like that. So how does one build decentralized ID solution, which seems the crux, right, for the data input?
Correct. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one, right? So now what happens here is that, see, fortunately, all Indians have some kind of ID, which is Aadhaar card, right? They may not have PAN cards, which is understandable, but Aadhaar is definitely a thing. So we go by the same. See, without Aadhaar as a base, right? How do you recognize this person, right? Today, they don't have smartphones to say wallet IDs or, we don't want to confuse today. Even when you talk about foodlands, we don't actually confuse them with gas fee or any of this because farmers will run away. The idea is to still work with the system, be a digital twin. So when I go into the deep and the micro lending, probably it'll be much easier to focus, right? And there are some questions there, probably that will really make them to work on it, because this takes some bit of, 3 or 4 team members to sit together and then solve those questions. They can do offline, no problem, but I'm just telling you, would be interesting. Okay, I'll skip this. This is just a governance part of it. Now, this is again traceability. Again, what we are saying is we put all the operations on the blockchain. So we have a stitching all the single source of truth using the satellite imagery plus other details there. So I'll skip this slide also. That's how your satellite imagery would look like. Right? Basically, I'm talking about this point, this point. Now, this is the main thing which we want to really cover, that micro credit lines, right? A couple of advantages here, right? So now a farmer needs say 50,000 rupees as a credit line. Now we don't want to give them 50,000 rupees on day one, which you will probably misuse. So typically, when it's approved, by giving a proof of soil preparation and sowing, they can draw 20% of the credit line. So out of the 50,000 rupees, they can take 10,000 rupees, which is what they need during that time, right? And once they sow the fertilizers, and then imagery is actually telling that there's a growth or sprouts that came up, right? The saplings grow, they can take 30%, which means they can use it for fertilizers. And then if there's a pest detection, because of spatial imagery, you can say that this is a pest detection. They can take the 20% more. And towards the last 1 week or 10 days during harvest, they take 30%. Now, the inference out of this is that they only pay prorated interest. So they're taking 50,000 rupees as the credit line given. But here, can anybody answer how much they're drawing here? 20% of 50,000?
Girls, come on.
Simple maths. 20% of 50,000 is how much? So I'll teach all the BTech girls what are they studying. Okay, it's 10,000 rupees, right? So if you take 10,000 rupees from day one, so typically what happens if you take any crop is about 3 months is average cycle. Let's say four months in this case, right? Be clear. So if you take 10,000 rupees on day one, for 16 weeks, I only pay X percentage for 10,000 rupees on. Agree? So this is this is 1st of May. After 4 weeks, which is on 1st of June, they take 30%, which is how much? 15,000 rupees, right? So they take 15,000 rupees. The exposure today is only 25,000 rupees as of 4 weeks. So from 1st of June, July, August, and they're only paying interest for this amount, right? 25,000 rupees. And here we would want to avoid 20% taking 20%, because if there's no pest detection happening and the growth is good, with the spatial imagery, they can actually detect that there's a pest coming up, so they can take an proactive action. But if there's a lot of pest infestation, then they'll draw 20%, which is 10,000 rupees, right? So until the harvest stage, which is 1 week before, like 2nd or 3rd week of August, they will only drawing the last 30%, which is 50,000 rupees, right? Which means they're only paying prorated interest for the amount of time they require to keep the capital, the working capital. So for 10,000, they'll pay whatever 10% for 16 weeks. For the next 15,000, they will only pay 10% for 12 weeks. Here, they will only pay whatever interest for the 8 weeks only. Here, they only pay for 1 week. See the math there? So when you do that prorated, the interest rate actually comes down. Is it? Do you guys agree? So I'm paying like 2%. Let's say the bank is going to 12%. So for 10,000, I'm paying 12% for 14 weeks, right? Or 16 weeks. But for the other tranches, I'm paying same 12% only, but the capital which I've drawn is less, isn't it? I've drawn here 10,000, I've drawn 15,000, I've drawn again 10,000 here, I've drawn 15,000. So when you start looking at all this, right, then you can do all the math, and it comes out. There's a couple of questions I'll give it to you. You can attempt later on and then submit to. But is it really making sense? Event-based credit line, that's what is important, right? Either case girls understood or it's bouncing, or I can simplify if you want.
Yeah. Sir, I think they'll be really interested in the architecture and the design of Foodlands and how you built it, because they have some projects coming up. Would be a
Sure,
great
sure.
inspiration. Yeah.
Understood. No problem. We can look at it. Anyway, if I just keep this in mind, right? And then we can go to the next slide.
Exactly. This is the fundamental of it, so we need to learn
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Understand. Anyway, this one we will not go into that. This is actually what happens in the mandi places. Right? And the pull strategy is what I was talking earlier on, that they will come and start buying from you 3 or 4 days before the harvest itself that comes up. It's logged in escrow account 30% in advance. On the day produce is done, that's sent directly to the actual buyer bypassing the middleman, the agri distributor. Right? So anyway, so this is again smart box. I will not get into this, but we'll look at a couple of questions that may be interested for you. Or if you want me to go deep into the food lens, how it is done, then Priyanka, I think you should not start. Some of the girls should ask me questions. Otherwise,
Yes.
I don't want it to become a sandwich between us. Okay, deposit 50,000. Right. Okay. While you're asking questions, can you come on video? So at least I know that I'm talking to real person. If I have
Come on,
anything,
girls. What happened?
it's okay. The money, Meghna, Kiran, we have. Kiran, okay. So let me pull it up, right? So what exactly do you want to understand from Foodlands? I know that you're doing some of the traceability projects. So who's doing the traceability project in this group?
So there was Prisha, sir, like Prisha,
Hmm.
Vanshika, like I think they will make it today.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah. And some of the senior girls are there. So
Okay.
they also were interested in traceability. So the senior girls also have not come. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Understood.
Right,
Understood.
right.
Okay. Perfect. Good. So what is so what do we do now? If they're not around, do you want me to well deep and what exactly do you want us to know?
Right. Actually, it would be great to, see how the food lens actually works, like where, the traceability solutions is actually taking, the architecture in blockchain, like where the smart contract is integrated, is it in the ERP, which databases have been replaced with a digital ledger, those kind of basic nitty-gritties will be very
Okay.
helpful for the girls. We can just go through
Okay.
your food lens, like the blockchain code as well.
Now the code, I'm not the right guy because that's written in Kotlin, right? So
Code.
the
Yeah.
developers have to be on the
Yeah.
call. They are not on the call. So
Got
this
it. Got
also
it.
was a short notice to me, right?
Sure,
But
sure,
I
sure.
can run you through that what really happens. We don't integrate the ERP because the more you try to put in there, it gets complicated, right? So I'll try to pull up one slide where we talk
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
done, right? So it'll be easier for you guys to visualize how we have put in all this stuff. So give me a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, any other questions you have, just put in the chat. I'll try to answer that. Okay. So if the girls don't attend, do they lose points here, or what happens? How are the credit? No, I'm just
Yeah.
curious. I don't want to poke.
Actually, no,
Yes, sir.
that's true. Actually, the ones with participation get badges.
Okay,
So
okay,
they become like, the trailblazer of the week, technically. So,
okay.
yeah, ultimately, everything depends on the project that they execute. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Because what I observe is that all we are only talking, all five of us. Kiran
Right.
is listening and somebody is there, but they should benefit. No, you can talk as much as you want. So
Yes.
sorry. Okay, no problem. That's
Yeah.
fine. Let me pull up that slide. What we talked about. Hold on. Okay, I can probably explain in a PowerPoint easier. Then that will easy than understand.
Also, so while you're opening that, you started with proof of work itself. Like we just moved to proof
Mm.
of stake October 2021, I believe. So
Mm.
how did you manage with the gas optimization and,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when it comes to farmers? Yeah.
Cut. That's where we use private blockchain. So I'll share my screen and just draw it quickly, right? It's easier in the architecture. So again, that's a good question. If you look at a public blockchain like Ethereum, what is happening is that they need the gas fee because they have to pay all the miners, previously proof of work. But in the POS that they have moved on recently also, they still have to share the transaction fee with all the stakers. Today, I'm sure you understand, all of you understand POW and POS, right? So POW, proof of work, was taking a lot of energy, right? Today, even Bitcoin burns so much of electricity because you got to solve a bigger puzzle to be able to mine that Bitcoin. I mean, create a block and mine the Bitcoin as reward. But when Ethereum moved from proof of work to proof of stake, now they said whoever can stake X number of Ethereums, like minimum was 30 Ether. But if I can put in 100 Ether, I may be given a priority to create a block and then start sharing the whatever the transaction fee that comes inside. And I think every year they will create more Ethereum coins based on the foundation what they decide, and so that data circulation is healthy in the market, right? But when it comes to a private blockchain, what happens is you don't have a requirement to pay for the miners because there's no concept of mining here. So how it looks like, I'll just put in a simple way, right? So you basically you have node one, again same architecture only, multiple nodes, right? Because we use Coda.
Yeah.
Coda is a slightly different architecture. And I'll also try to explain that and why it becomes easy to remove the gas restriction out of this. And of course, it comes with its own questions also, saying that if Kratos is managing the server, can I go and log in and make changes? It doesn't happen that way. We can't do that as well. Okay, now if you look at a public blockchain, if a block is created here, it gets replicated to 2, 3, and 4. We call it delta changes, right? So they would have either broken a puzzle or they have staked whatever the highest number of ethers there, and they get a priority to make the block. Once the block is created, then they will replicate. Basically, these node 2, 3, and 4 will pick up the data and then start attaching to the databases. That's so that the copy is maintained every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on the interval of how the sync up happens. But in Coda, what happens is a bit different, right? So Coda acts something with a call as notary. So notary is that okay, if I'm buying a house and I notarize, right, the documentation, I have a third party, like a lawyer, who will mediate between the buyer and seller, finishes all the stamp duty or whatever it is. So he keeps one copy of it. So in Coda, what happens is the notary becomes whatever the copy, there's always a copy in notary. So if the transaction one that got committed, there's one copy always in notary, right? One difference here in notary is that let's say I have farmer here, node, and I have got an aggregator. That's how I'm just making it simple so that I can understand, I can explain the Foodlands architecture. And you have the processing node, right? And then I can have a buyer and I have a consumer. Now, what the differentiation in Coda, what happens is the replication does not happen in all the nodes. That's a major change here. So if the farmer is actually taking a picture of, say, again, same example of lady's finger, right? And that copy would be put in the farmer node, aggregator node, for example, right? The one copy is maintained there on the notary node. Until it comes to harvest level, even the processor or buyer or consumer need not know what's happening. That is how the architecture is different, right? Which means we're not carrying multiple copies everywhere in these nodes, but notary will always keep a note, will always have a one copy of it, irrespective of who are interacting with each other. Okay. That's the first one. Any questions at this point of level? Anyway, so my point is that we are looking at these three maintaining one copy whenever the transaction happens in the farmer side. That's the point number one. The second thing, when we are maintaining the servers, right, we manage the entire network, right? In this case, we don't need a mining fee to be taken from a farmer or aggregator. So there's no concept of gas fee in Coda. Okay. So the question is why notary is maintaining a backup, right? So it's like a master node basically. So notary, one is to make sure that it is signing the transaction for all the participants in the network. That's the point number one that's doing. Second thing is obviously is the backup, right? So if even all the 5 nodes go down, I can always get the data from notary. That's the advantage of notary. So two things that it does. It will cross-sign all the transactions happening from any of the node within the network. Second thing is it maintains a backup, which is called as a master copy of all the transactions happening in the system. So I can, if the processor node goes down, I can build these transactions again from copying from the notary. That's our advantage. So that's a good question. Okay, now what is happening here is that when we so just to summarize, there's no concept of gas fee here, so there's nothing to optimize. Only query that comes in the conflict of interest, what we call, is that if Kratos is maintaining these nodes, will I go and make any changes, right? That could be because that's a whole thing why we are saying that it should be decentralized. So put it in the public domain and then come back, right? So, but then when people start looking from Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these things, right? At some point of time, the gas fee went so crazily high. So $60 to $80 per transaction. Today, just to take one copy of of lady's finger, right? I can't expect a farmer to pay $80 as a gas fee. So obviously the system will fail, right? So for enterprise adoption, the cheaper it is. If you can bring back a transaction fee to say 2 rupees or 1 rupee, people will start using it, right? Because there are billions of transactions that happen in the agriculture field itself. Not looking at capital markets even higher, right? So that's the major difference here. Why we chose Coda or a private blockchain per se, where you can actually putting there and not charging the farmers. Today, when the farmers take a picture of anything here, it gets committed instantly. We get back result. So we are not waiting on a public nodes to be able to create a block. Now create a replication of this and then come back after 5 minutes or 10 minutes with a hash, or even 10 seconds or 20 seconds doesn't happen here. In nodes, influence is instant. It is in a private blockchain. So that's the main architecture here. So if you look at how the data comes in, right? So the data is always input through a mobile application. Okay, now we are taking the analogy of the proof of something, right? And I say that if I've sown the saplings or the seeds of lady's finger, after 2 weeks, something should have come up. The sprout should have come up. After 4 weeks, there should be growth of the plant. After 8 weeks, I'm sure the lady's fingers are starting now. After 10 weeks, it's ready for harvest. That's a simple math, right? Simple common sense only. We said, let's go by the what's happening on the ground and not trying to push the technology. So the message here is that we cannot push the technology because just because we created it. Right? The farmers will not understand, neither they will be able to visualize what's happening, right? As long as you tell them, boss, if you're using WhatsApp, taking a picture and sending to your friend, same thing we do in Fluence also. Take a picture, click, add operation, just 3 clicks on all this. Click, 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 it's done. Right, so one question came up. Okay, the question is, how decentralized IDs and NFTs play a part in this sustainable agriculture solution, right? Okay. The honest answer today is that from a farmer's perspective, NFTs or IDs really don't make any sense to them. Unless you're talking about progressive farmers or medium farmers or bigger farmers, they understand this technology, they might be able to pay for this, but they're only 13%, right? We're talking about 87% are in this category, which I mentioned earlier. I'm saying that they don't understand technology, there's no point trying to push it. Okay. Now, what we have done in this architecture, an extension of Foodlands, is something called Ahan, A-H-A-N, Ahan. So Ahan is a Sanskrit word for the first ray of light. Again, not confusing the farmers, what we have done is we have used NFT technology to actually generate working capital at a near zero interest from retail investors, right? So for example, if Priyanka wants to support farmers with say 10,000 rupees, we are saying she's open. We're not expecting her to fund the entire 50,000 rupees, but she can fund 20% of it, which is 10,000 rupees in this case. But she will get an NFT of that value. So we are actually creating 50 NFTs of say 1,000 rupees each, Priyanka can buy 10 units of NFTs, and the value of the NFT keeps growing, which is directly proportional to the growth of the crop. That's the use case what we created, right? Which is real use case on the ground. As compared to what NFTs happens today, you have an image of something and that goes for $1 or $2 million. Obviously, it failed. No, people lost millions of dollars because they thought it's unique. What is unique today, from our perspective, is that your geography is unique. If a farmer owns 1 acre of land, he owns it, right? Nobody can own, because it's again geofenced by latitude and longitude. So we can prove that it's the one. Second thing is, it is in South India. It has got the one type of soil, can only grow cotton, can only grow perishable vegetables, for example. And we are giving the proof with timestamp. Like, we cannot replicate say same timestamp, right? At 4:37 p.m. he has taken a picture, which is unique. So if you look at NFTs go by something called as generic traits. So just look at your labs, what they created. Right? They created the bored apes. They create, and they called there are 10,000 uniqueness. But if you look at deep inside, what is uniqueness in that? One of the ape is wearing a hat. One ape is having a cigar. One ape is having a ring. One ape is got goggles, right? That they call the traits, right? Which probably worked for a while, 1 or 2 years, then it bombed. But today, the real traits on the ground, at least from the agriculture point of view, is that all these traits I'm talking. It's geofenced. Second thing is that the crop is unique, the soil is unique, timestamp is unique, photos are unique. So all these things, if you put that and create an NFT, then obviously you can go and say to a buyer, now don't pay in cash, buy this NFT, which is a fractional NFT for you, for example. And then when the crop is ready, you can get back the crop for this NFT. That's exactly what it is. If Priyanka is actually buying 10 units of this NFTs, what it means that she can get back a fixed returns, right? 6% or 7% when the produce gets sold to Udhan or anybody. So that's real use case. What you're saying, the farmer does not have to pay interest. He's getting funded at 0% interest, and there's a buyback happening here. The NFTs are being purchased. Buyer purchases NFTs. When the buyer purchases NFTs, obviously Priyanka can get back 10,000, which is the principal, plus 6%, which is probably 600 rupees, for this what she has supported. But if you want to hold the NFT for uniqueness, I'm sure she can trade again, right? That's what we are trying to roll out very soon, making sure the farmer gets at 0% interest, but not again confusing farmers with any of these NFTs. Right? We don't even tell. Farmer wants 50,000, he'll get 50,000 rupees. Again, on a microcredit based lending, right? 20,000 he'll get initially, then he gets 15,000, then he gets 15,000, then whatever it comes in. So that tech is already taken care. So why we do that is that if the farmer has not deployed the capital, and I don't see any growth coming in, right? Then there's no point lending to the farmer, because then there's exposure of risk is more for the lender. In this case, who is giving them the NFT, buyers who are buying this fractional NFTs. So those, they get affected. So I hope I answered your question. NFTs should be, again, it's not, NFTs is not linked to, limited to agriculture, but you should start looking at real-time utility-based NFTs, where you can actually create an utility of the NFT and then start doing it instead of putting some images, JPEG images, and trying to create a forced trades. That's my point. Did I answer your question? Who was this? Nice question.
Yes.
You right? Yeah, Sindhu. Okay, nice, good question. Good.
Right.
Okay. So now coming to this one, so mobile application now is basically committing the data. So if I putting the data here to the farmer, the moment farmer takes a picture of the image, that's going in. I'll give you a quick demo if there's a time, but how it works like. And then aggregator also knows that, okay, now this is happening here, and you can see in the background. So let me demonstrate quickly how that it looks like. Meanwhile, any questions you please put in there. Okay? Priyanka, is it answering your thing? You said look at the architecture and everything.
Yes, actually, sir, how you have this prototype of the food lens, where you have the coffee traceability and all of the details coming up. That'll be really good for the girls to get a real time.
Yeah, I'll show live demo now. They can
Right.
visualize clearly what I'm
Oh yeah, turmeric.
So today evening we had a call from one of the venture capital fund.
Very nice.
Demo was going on, the power went off.
Oh, the power went during the demo.
This is
Okay.
what he called, so you can't do much. This is how
Okay,
life is.
okay. I hope you'll be able to
And
show it soon. Yeah.
yeah, I'm coming. I just sent that Zoom URL. So, one second. I've sent myself mobile, so it's waiting for
Yeah.
the link to come. Okay, I got it now. I'm joining. So, so I'm sharing from mobile now. And you can see live. Look on host. Okay, can you enable the hosting? Okay, let me know. I think you made me this one share screen. Okay, got it. Now, okay, so the app is Foodlens that is on Play Store available. So I'm just clicking on it. So whenever a farmer wants to tell the story behind the lens story of Foodlens, I mean, what food they are putting, what they do is they click on the plus button here. Again, I said the data entry is always from the one, so it's mostly 3 clicks. So we have got a product day today, and let's say putting coffee or coriander. I'll just show coriander because I have a real-time data I can show, which we recorded. Now you see that the block is already created. It's instant, right? It hit it and came back from us. We are maintaining 64 GB to 128 GB servers because we need to get this for servers, right? And this is pretty expensive for us, but we do maintain. Right? And of course, all the GCPs of the world are supporting us with a lot of credits, so which is which is good. Fine, so we go there. Now this is a batch code that got created, right? So it is unique for each batch and each produce. If I need to get some pictures just for this, show you. This is where the metadata comes into picture, no? Saying that how we prove that work is happening. Right? So the coriander that got created, I'm basically saying salt preparation. So week 1. And system allows to take 3 pictures. Right? So I'm just taking 1 picture from my laptop now because I can't go outside to give a demo. Why not now? So let's say that I'm taking a picture of this of the salt preparation. Just real time, they should actually take pictures within that their form. Right? You can take up to 2 pictures. Just taking some more. Whatever proof they can give it. In this case, we are giving proof by images, but apart from that, we are giving a lot of metadata, which I'll try to show you. So I've got 2 pictures now. So I'm adding the operation. As you can see, it got committed, right? Now you see the traceability started now. Salt preparation. Now I can simulate some more. We'll go back to the same coriander operation, and you can basically say record growth. Now, as I do that, as I'm doing it here, you see that microcredit what I'm showing. The first one, when I give proof of salt preparation, automatically a smart contract will debit from the bank account and credit to the farmer's account, 20% of it. So that's what I want to visualize what I slowly mentioned. Actually. So we're looking at, say, coriander. Okay, so if I have to give a proof of it, I can need to again take some pictures. So that's images. Somebody at the door. Just give me a second.
Okay, girls. I think while Satish comes, definitely ask these questions and see how actually AI converges with blockchain here, because you're dealing with large data sets. So it's going to be an exciting area for you to explore, considering how the whole world is moving towards, generative AI and LLMs. So do explore the intersection of blockchain and AI as well. This is a brilliant opportunity for you all. And girls, I think yesterday you did write a smart contract on the Sabzi Mandi smart contract, right? It basically, what were the different functions you've written? Could someone tell me that Priyanshu sir had thought? Any of you with yesterday's transaction, smart contract transaction?
Yeah, sorry, I'm back now. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Satish sir. Yeah.
Okay, so you see the 3 transactions we have recorded, right?
Yeah.
Now record growth, everything. Now, advantage here, what happens is that we enable farmers to start marketing halfway also, right? That's all, because we already have the truth, single source of truth, right? Now, if you look at when I start sharing, so for example, I'm sharing to Aravind, right? If it's my potential buyer, right? I can basically say that it's halfway, so you can look at the data. And from Arvind's point of view, he looks at a couple of metadata. Now we are saying we're not giving farmers mobile number, right? We are always saying that, okay, it's happened at 7:53 p.m. Week 1, we gave some proof, 2 images are taken, and they can look at the blockchain details. The entire JSON data is available for them to see which smart contract got executed and who are the actors involved here, right? So for example, we are giving the member, that's his ID we're talking, right? See that GFHQ, that's actually the wallet ID of the farmer in this case. So it's now looking at the product operation, what we have done. So again, we don't store the images on the blockchain directly, right? We just store the hash of the image. But today, blockchains are not scalable enough to take 10 to 15 MB images, or they become very slow. So what we do is, because there are 2 images taken, we only are storing the hash of the data on the block, and the action type is all preparation, whatever it was done. So this is what I call the metadata and the traits, what we call it, which are unique for the farmer. It's by the operation, by the timestamp, right? And then we're talking about what product is been put in. So there are a lot of data which we can prove that it's unique, and it is below its the data is coming up. So that's the whole idea. And then we can also show the location. Mostly it's accurate to 4 meters. If you take it outside in the one, now I'm inside, so that's exactly where I'm talking to people. That's where exactly I'm sitting. Inside the house also, it's showing the exact location because that's where I'm sitting and talking to, towards the back, western side of the villa, right? But if you look at the actual data, I'll show you, which we have done also. Full traceability we have done for a code and want to show you now, right? So if I go back to the application, what we have done is, so you can look at all these batches which were done. So this data for last 2.5 years, 2020 we have data. But I'll show you the actual full thing what you have done for coriander. So for example, if you go to this one and share this data, I'm going to say Aravind, then you will be able to visualize what we're talking about. This actual data which is recorded. For example, 24 December 2020, we have taken 2 small pits, we call square meter, 1 by 1. 2 pits were taken. They were put in the coriander seeds. And the sprouts start coming in week 2. You see the sprouts there, small sprouts in the image. And then the growth started. This is totally organic, right? Nothing much we put in, it's just biofertilizers. And the growth we are able to record the entire data for over 6 weeks. By week 4, you already have the growth coming in almost, like what you see here. And then in the end, I think by February, I believe we have done the full harvest. So this is something when we actually put this in a nice presentable cover in the community and put a QR code. The very first time in 2020, they were able to visualize, okay, where it came from. So for example, it is from our Center of Excellence here, where we built it. So right now I'm here, somewhere here, and this is where we were working all together, about 8 to 10 people. So we rented one more villa, and that became our like an office villa, and we are working there. So this is
Wow.
the back ad where we have done it actually. The entire back ad where so we
Nice.
created kind of things. Yeah, go ahead, sorry, China.
Really interesting.
Right. So this is exactly what you guys, even if you do Farm Didi also, that's the biggest use case which you can actually excel, right? Core is part of this, right? So now look from the self-help groups, the women farmer who are struggling, right? Today they are not realizing obviously the good price for the pickles, but if you can tell this story, right, without sharing their photos or identities or their Aadhaar numbers or image or their phone numbers, you still have to tell the name. That is fine. Nobody's going to stalk them, but the point here is that there should be some kind of proof saying that this is this Didi doing some work, right? But if you're able to show this all this, steps one by one, then we can look at it, right? Now, while I was recording the data, because I mentioned about Coda, right? So, any questions so far, guys, on this one? Is it able to visualize what's going
Yeah.
on? Or?
I think Naga Bhavani had a question. Is there any image detection in food lens? Because someone can add photos from other sources like internet or another crop from the
Exactly.
internet.
That's a very, very good question.
Yeah.
That's why we call it as the geofencing, right? So when you remember initially I was talking about, so here what happens in our tech is that even before they start tracking the data, they are expected to do the geofencing of the land. So today when I was giving demo, when power went up, I went outside and I've done a geofencing of our lawn before that. This front lawn of the villa, right? So you're supposed to do the geofencing wherever you want to track the data, wherever you record data. So to ask a question, what happens is that India, just within 5 meters, you can actually go to other farmer and take photos. Right? So if you step out of the geofencing and take photos, the system will reject it. You're supposed to stand within these parameters, that whatever one acre or half an acre. Only there you're allowed to take pictures, and we compare those pictures with the satellite imagery. And I'll also tell you what it means, right? So when after geofencing, every 5th day or 6th day, we provide precision data, and this is the live data I'm showing you of a farm outside near Shabnagar. You see the data that's coming in? The vegetation is showing orange here, and pictures are showing all green. Obviously, the system will not accept it. That's a defraud. Trying to if somebody wants to defraud the system, we can capture this with the AI and machine learning. Did I answer your question?
Hey Bhavani, I hope that answered your question. Yeah. Anybody from yesterday's contract that was written for Sabji Money, which is a very similar use case? Do you remember the functions that were written, girls?
Okay, perfect. So I think we ran out of time.
Yeah.
Let me conclude in about 5 minutes or so at the max. But I
Sure.
want to really show you that just to close on that, when the farmer took the images, right? How can they cross check? I'll show you that live, right? So what happens in this case? So if an aggregator is sitting in his computer or somewhere on the road, they can cross check all the data. And that's what I'll show you now. How we do the cross check. Right? So if I go back to treatments. So while the farmers are recording the data, you can actually cross check from here. So our smart farm, that's where demo is happening. So look at the batches here. I just put in June. Today we just created. I can cross check here what's happening. Right? This is done by farmer is Kalavanya, but the aggregator is different, right? Aggregator is Srinivas in this case. Okay, this is I've logged in because I'm super admin. I've logged in. I can see all the data with the organization, but for each organization there is basically super admin, right? Their own admin. For example, Simaraju is organization head for edible import exports. He can log in with his mobile number, whatever pin he has set in. He can see only his data of his farmers. That's what I'm trying to tell, right? And similarly, we have a lot of data coming in from Meghalaya, what they do there. So they are tracking a lot of product types.
Super.
turmeric is biggest one. And how we have helped them is basically when they start recording data on the one. That's why what happens, Priyank, to answer your question, right? We don't complicate by injecting into ERP, so because these guys don't understand. Tomorrow you won't tell them, can you buy, MS Dynamics or SAP? They will not. So what we are doing is, we have the batch code here, right? So let's say this batch was tracked last year. This one. So it's a totally decoupled system. So if I go and take this URL and then look at organic fab today, it's similar to your form DB we're talking, right? So this particular QR code is embedded in this URL is embedded in the QR code. What is coming on each of the things here, and I'll get you the real product, how it is there. Give me a minute. It's in the kitchen. I'm getting it. But here, see that these are actual tribal farmers. 20% premium was paid by tracking on Foodlands. And if somebody wants to, place an order, they can do now also. I think they have only like 5 or 6 left. But my point here is that from a consumer point of view, so we have cut down all the middlemen, right? It's only the farmers, aggregator, and the direct to consumer. So they can always cross-check this, and then before placing order, they can check this. And that's the URL that's embedded in this QR code, right? And when the product comes in, I'll show how it looks like. One second.
So yeah, girls, this is a smart QR code that is integrated with the smart contract, which will give you that unique hash ID where you've seen the entire metadata of the product and how you are storing it on the digital ledger, how you are actually aggregating data from scattered databases, and how all of this comes together. You should be thinking more about that.
Correct. So
yeah, go ahead.
Look at this, right? So this actual one that you saw in the website, and that's shipped, right? This is the QR code there.
Yeah.
That's actual QR code. Once even now I can scan this and they'll show the entire traceability.
So
go ahead, say something.
Oh, looks like Nagabhavani had dropped off.
That's fine.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we can see it's the QR code. Very cool, actually.
Okay.
So we just use any like normal QR scanner code and get all the metadata from it.
I think with all the smartphone, just take a picture, take a camera, it'll come, right? So the point here is that when we cut out all the middleman and still making profits for farmers, and the same thing if you are buying, say, for example, this Lakadong turmeric, right? If you buy in Amazon today, it's going to cost 2,000 rupees per kilo because it's the purest form of turmeric with 7% curcumin, right?
Right.
Highly medical grade, and if you have cough and all, you just take one pinch of it and put in, make a latte, turmeric latte.
You're all
gone. And in fact, during Corona, we use this a lot of times because this helped us. The initial symptoms are gone.
Correct. Yeah. Clear your breathing and everything. Yeah.
Everything was right. So unfortunately, what is happening is everything of this is getting exported outside of India. People are ready to pay $100 for this, right? Now we are saying let's bring that to India in less than 1,000 rupees per kilo. So this is like 125 for 150 grams, by the way. Right? So,
nice.
And typically because it's so high concentration, if you're putting 1 spoon for your sambar, you just put 1/4 of this for sambar, something like that. So you still get a better aroma now. That's the whole idea. Thanks. I think that concludes my presentation. And I hope that was useful, right? And then see how it comes out.
Absolutely. Thanks, Satish sir. This was quite insightful. The girls who had nominated themselves for the Farmer Solutions will definitely reach out to you. They just got a little occupied today, but we are very excited to bring our Web3 knowledge to benefit the common man. And we've learned that from you. So thank you for your time.
No problem. Take care. Bye-bye. See you. Bye. Thank you, Kiran. I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah, Kiran is right here. Kiran, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. But I'll log off now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Kiran. Yeah.